Hey guys, Alex from Central Florida Enthusiast here, and today we gotta talk about Jurassic World Velocicoaster and why you should be as hyped as I am for this ride. Now, before we roll the intro, we gotta mention the break we took. We took a break for a few months for a few reasons, most of which I can't really get into in this video, but stay till the end for me to give as much as a full reason as to why. Anyways, roll the intro. So in today's video, we got to talk about Jurassic World Velocicoaster and why it's a much bigger deal than most people actually think. And in fact, is actually going to be the single best addition to the Universal Orlando Resort since the creation of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So with that being said, let's dive into the 5 biggest reasons, starting with the forces you'll experience. Jurassic World Velocicoaster will feature a plethora of forces ranging from crazy hang time filled inversions to intense positive G's, but the majority of the focus on airtime. Each inversion looks to feature hang time. Just imagine that first inversion where you come off that first launch and you're hanging upside down, just going at a bear crawl while going over that rock work. That moment is going to be a very nice near miss for the general public. As the train rockets through the raptor paddock, you're going to pass through rockwork, giving some insane near misses along with some very nice airtime pops. Once you reach the second launch, you're going to rocket up that 155 foot tall top hat, which should give some nice views of the park. You then go into the stall, giving some awesome hang time as you enter that oscillating helix. You'll slam into your seat with some amazing positive G's. From there, you're going to go through some airtime pops along with more great positives. You'll then go through the final element of the ride, a heartline roll over the water, which seems to be inspired by Maverick's original heartline roll. From there, you'll go into an upwards S-bend into the brakes, which should also give you some nice forces. Overall, the ride features a very long ride time and seems to be very nicely paced. But some people might argue that last point, which brings us on to our second point, pacing. Some enthusiasts are starting to think the ride is going to have pacing issues based off of testing footage. I simply disagree. The ride is currently testing and not officially open, so to sit here and say the ride looks slow, it's clearly going to have pacing issues is a bit ignorant. Yes, the ride has ran slow, but that's not to say the ride is running at its intended speed. As someone who has seen this ride in person, it looks way slower in film than it does in person. Also remember, when Steel Vengeance was testing, everyone went crazy with overreactions, like the ride clearly has pacing issues, or that ride looks slow. Some people even went as far to say the ride looks like it sucks because it obviously has pacing issues. My overall point is, don't judge the ride for having pacing issues until you have ridden it. Many coasters are guilty of what I like to call the GoPro effect, where photos or videos make it look slower than what it really is. It's no secret the ride is being compared to Fantasyland's Terran, but the similarities are just too obvious. It's an intense, intimate multi-launch with incredible world-class theming that is used to enhance the ride experience by acting as a near miss. But that's not the only reason why it's America's version of Terran, because there actually are some notable differences. Take note, they are cousins, not brothers. Terran has an amazing theme that is unique to Fantasyland, and Velocicoaster is based around an IP. Jurassic World is a beloved cinematic franchise that has plenty of material to affect people's emotions or their state of mind. This can usher in a rabbit hole of debate between original ideas and intellectual properties, but in short, if I was a story writer for an attraction, I'd be going for the shiny IP with an already invested audience rather than spending half the project trying to get people invested in my original ideas. This ultimately is one of the big differences between American theme parks and European theme parks. Here in America, we find it much more successful to theme an attraction to an already existing franchise, versus in Europe, they much rather go with an original idea so they don't have to typecast their employees. But like I said, it is much easier to write for an IP because it already has an existing universe. Theming is obviously what Universal does best. After all, the company has been in the storytelling business since 1912. The company is actually responsible for what we call the modern day horror film by giving us the classic Universal monsters. They used what they learned from making those films and gave us even more classics such as Jaws, Back to the Future, E.T., and then eventually they would give us Jurassic Park. But before Universal Orlando was founded, the biggest name in the industry was Disney, and they would predominantly place you into these stories and go over the highlights of each and every film and make the writer feel like they were in the stories they grew up on. Essentially, they have weaponized nostalgia. You can even see this style of storytelling in their films they're making. Take the Star Wars films, for example. The Force Awakens is essentially just a retelling of A New Hope. Or even worse offenders, the live-action remakes of their classic animated films are essentially just weaponized nostalgia. Not Universal. Instead, Universal would take these characters, these environments that we know and love, and bring us into that universe by telling a story unique to us, outside of the films. This would make the writer feel a lot more immersed, and it is a very good style of storytelling. It is ultimately how every attraction should tell its story, rather than having to rely on a film and use that film to tell the same exact story beat for beat. Universal doesn't do that. Now, the real question is, how does this have to do with an Intamin multi-launch? Well, it's really quite simple. It's a Universal ride. Universal does this kind of storytelling for everything. Obviously, we don't have a clue what the actual plot of the attraction will be, but given that Universal uses this style of storytelling for their rides and attractions, it's safe to say that Universal is going to be using their signature style of plot writing for this ride. The overall lasting impact of Jurassic World Velocicoaster is going to be massive. Traditionally, high thrill attractions don't get as much theming as, say, a dark ride or a smaller family-sized indoor roller coaster, especially here in America. The majority of theme parks here in the States traditionally do not invest heavily into theming outside of Universal and Disney. The only places that really seem to invest heavily into theming are Europe, the Middle East, and some parks in China. Even take a ride like Conda, which looks to have what I believe to be one of, if not the greatest layout known to man. Yet the ride has very little theming outside of its queue. This simple fact places Jurassic World Velocicoaster into a class of its own, ranking it up there with rides like Terran, Fly, and even Black Mamba, and is marked as the first high-themed, high-thrill coaster to come to the States. The overall impact of this attraction may be a little bit more interesting because of chains like Cedar Fair and Six Flags are changing. Even before the pandemic, Cedar Fair started to invest more heavily into theming, with additions like Copperhead Strike and even Orion being heavily themed by regional amusement park standards. And now with Universal building a high-themed, high-thrill coaster, chains like Cedar Fair might start to feel a little bit more pressure to build immersive attractions to keep the locals at their home parks rather than taking that elusive trip to go ride Velocicoaster. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. At the beginning of this video, I promised you why I left, and I'm going to get into that right now. We mainly left because I had just got the call back to work, and I've been back at work since late October. Having to manage that with school taking up more and more of my time, it has become incredibly hard to balance that while trying to go daily. On top of that, I have had some changes in my family, with my sister giving me a nephew, which you best believe I'm making sure he's going to grow up to be a coaster enthusiast. I couldn't find a place in my schedule to make videos, so going forward, my video schedule is going to be quite crazy. I'll fit in where I can to get videos out, but going daily is not in our immediate future. One thing you can expect from us is a new series I'm kicking off with this video. It's going to be called Theme Park Science. That's where we talk about themes of an attraction or set details or just overall the theatrical or the cinematic aspect of attractions, especially here in Orlando, and explain why they work. Think of it as problematic coasters with, say, a film essay channel like Nerd. Look forward to that series coming out soon. Anyways guys, thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video. If you like what you saw, it would seriously help us out if you gave us a subscription to our channel. We spent 2 months making this video you're watching today. Don't forget to give this video a like to help boost that YouTube algorithm, and leave us a comment to let us know your thoughts. But in the meantime guys, thank you so much. This is Alex from Central Florida Enthusiast. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.